Lots happening in the real estate world the last couple of years, especially when it comes to the National Association of Realtors, these settlements, and now Zillow and Compass have found themselves in a bit of a battle regarding clear cooperation and off-market listings. So not going to get too in the weeds here, just want to give you guys an overview of sort of what's going on. Those of you that don't know what clear cooperation is, it's basically a policy by the National Association of Realtors, requires that listing agents submit a residential property to their multiple listing service within 1 business day of any public marketing for that property. Now, the basic idea here is, okay, if you're going to start telling people about this listing, you need to tell everyone. All real estate agents and their clients deserve to know whether you're going to be putting yard signs up, social media posts, email blasts, mailers, digital advertising campaigns. Basically, none of this stuff can happen unless it's on the MLS, available for all agents and their buyers within 24 hours. So, seems to make sense, right? Now, right now, there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to regulations around the MLS, the different MLSs, and what's allowed. Different MLSs in different markets allow for different things depending on whether or not they're realtor-owned, what areas they cover. We have different restrictions here in under the MLS PIN than the Cape Cod and Islands MLS has. So, I'm not going to dive too deep into that stuff, but I just want you to know what some of these different sentiments out there are regarding clear cooperation policies. So right now, Compass is trying to sell in a way that seems to work best for the consumer. So they're allowing their sellers and buyers options. And what Zillow seems to be doing is trying to sell in a way that works best for them, but sort of pretending all of a sudden that they are wanting to see some fair play going on in the industry. So Compass CEO Robert Revkin has been arguing a lot recently that sellers should have this choice about how their home is marketed. They should be able to choose that, they want to discreetly market their homes to a smaller audience if that works for the seller versus listing their property on the MLS, even though that goes out in front of a lot bigger of an audience. So more people are seeing their listing. It's to their seller's benefit to list the property on the MLS. Now, Compass Private Exclusive is an option that allows sellers to have that choice, and listing as a private exclusive would only show their listing to other Compass agents and their buyers, unless, of course, the listing agent decides to share the property with other brokerages by another means, which happens plenty. So as long as the seller is okay with it, obviously, they can decide to do this and list their property as a Compass Private Exclusive. So the byproduct of listing this way as a Compass Private Exclusive is that occasionally sellers are actually open to their property trading hands off market before their private exclusive listing gets put on the MLS and they list it publicly. And if those sellers want to accept an offer off market before going on the market, they have the ability to do that through Compass Private Exclusive. So this can absolutely result in a Compass buyer getting an advantage by having access to these listings before another buyer from another brokerage can see the listing. So if a client of mine goes on Compass Private Exclusive, a Keller Williams buyer, someone that's working with a Keller Williams agent or a Coldwell Banker agent, will not have access to that property pulling into that brokerage's search tools. So only the buyers that are set up on the Compass platform will have the ability to see those private exclusive listings, unless, again, those listings are marketed through other avenues beyond private exclusive, but still outside of the MLS. Now, the argument against this is that it makes Compass appear that they just want to give the other agents that work for this brokerage the opportunity to essentially double end the deals, which is the industry term for it. So a Compass agent on the seller side of the transaction, and then the Compass agent on the buyer or purchaser side of the transaction. So basically, Compass is making twice the commission that they likely would if a Compass agent had just listed the property on the MLS, rolled the dice, and maybe another brokerage agent picks up the buyer commission for that property. And then again, a cut of that commission will go to that brokerage instead of the Compass brokerage. So it's it's a good argument against, Compass. It appears that Compass just wants to double end these deals. And if you had zero other information, it's a pretty easy argument to make, because to be honest, what other possible benefit could this have for the seller to list a property this way? So the sentiment I'm seeing regarding this all over the place right now is sort of the same thing that we're seeing day to day in the media, and that's they're covering what they want to cover, not giving us all the facts. So nothing new there, but the argument against Compass is that this does not have the consumer's best interest in mind, because obviously the more people that you put a property in front of, the more it's going to sell for. And why wouldn't you want to put the property in front of as many people as possible and just list it on a private exclusive status like this? Now, that said, when a homeowner comes to us as real estate agents and tells us, hey, I want to get as much possible money for my property as I can, I don't care about anything else. Yes, it is literally our job to put that property in front of as many people as possible in order to find a buyer that's most likely to close on a property for the highest amount for that seller. And yes, 95% of the time, that is what homeowners, what sellers want to do. They want to get top dollar for their home, which is why the private exclusives usually end up on the MLS. Private exclusive is just sort of an initial marketing strategy before the properties are listed on the MLS. So most do end up on the MLS. But why would anyone want to go to private exclusive at all? The primary reason people are listing on private exclusive right now before they go on the MLS is to test the market. In Boston specifically, inventory is pretty low. There aren't a million homes trading hands. A lot of these properties are super unique. Many are very old. There aren't properties transacting on the market every single day. So it can be a little bit challenging to run CMAs and get an exact value for a property before you list it on the market. There's a number of things we can do. They're all data driven, and we have to base it on our experience as well. But there is almost no better tool right now than to just test run a small audience for a positioning strategy. So that's what a lot of these sellers are trying to do. They're saying, all right, well, let's try it out in front of a small group of people, as long as I don't have to do a public price drop and it's not impacting my days on market. I think it's a great idea to go on private exclusive. We're still getting it out there to 30,000 plus agents nationwide and all of their buyers. It's still the number one brokerage in the United States. So we're not putting this out there in front of 10 people. It's going out there in front of a lot of people still, but we're able to capture a smaller portion of the market and really get a feel for what the response is going to be before we actually list that property on the MLS. But there's a million other scenarios where sellers are wanting to keep their property a little bit more discreet. They want a little bit more control. So if you're a high profile owner, celebrity, executive, public figure, they don't want their home or personal life being made public. That's what private exclusive essentially started as, this luxury real estate selling tool for higher net worth individuals who wanted to keep their listing a little bit more quiet. Most high-end, high-profile celebrities transactions are happening off market. It's sort of common knowledge in the industry anyway. Other scenarios might be a divorce situation. The couple wants to avoid drawing attention to the sale. There are health concerns. The homeowner might be immunocompromised, elderly, have mobility issues. They cannot accommodate constant showings, or they can't just be kicked out of their house all weekend, so open houses can happen. This happened a lot during COVID. People just didn't want swarms of people going into their properties, sneezing on everything, and then they walk back in and they have to clean and disinfect their home. So young children and pets, people that work from home, they have tenants in place, religious or cultural observances. There are a million reasons that sellers decide not to go on the market. Another one that I deal with all the time is, well, thankfully not all the time, but quite frequently, you have a grieving family. A group of kids inherit their parents' property, the property that they were all raised in, and now mom passed away or was moved into a home. They're in there trying to figure out what to do with all of the property, who gets what, who has more sentimental attachment to what. clean the property all out. This can take months and months and months while they're grieving, while they're mourning the loss of their parents. And then they have to worry about getting the property entirely cleaned out and then starting the listing process when that's all done, which could potentially take another couple of months. So people in this situation, they more frequently would like to just be at the closing table by the time they get the property cleaned out. So they still are open to selling it. They still would love a couple of people to come in there for a tours, but it might not be worth the extra $5,000 or $10,000 for them to be constantly interrupted while they're going through this grieving process and cleaning out the home. So this is really meant to be up to the seller. Maybe they are relocating. Maybe they need a flexible closing timeline. They haven't found their next home yet. Maybe they're waiting on renovations and cleaning. I'm going to drop a list somewhere in here so you guys have access to the top 20 reasons that people would do this. But just know that it's not zero people that do this. And the reason Compass wants to put the power in the hands of the seller is so if the seller says, hey, we just buried mom, we have to clean the property out, we definitely want to get someone in here to purchase it, but just know that, we're going to be trying to have a little bit more control over the process. We shouldn't be, as real estate agents, we shouldn't be like, no, fuck you, we're putting it on the MLS in front of 1 million people and you don't have a choice in the matter. We should be able to say, okay, well, let's do things on your terms. Let's see if we can get a couple of people in here at times that work for you and then we can work around your schedule when you're going to be in here sort of with your siblings cleaning out the house. So, we have to be accommodating for our sellers at some point and not giving them the ability to market homes the way they want to me is kind of ridiculous. So let me talk about Zillow's response to this Compass private exclusive because it's super fascinating to me for a number of reasons. First of all, Zillow makes their money by selling leads. So the more I pay Zillow to show up as an agent around the Boston area, if a buyer shopping on Zillow opts to tour a property that, even if it's not my listing, I'll populate as that premier agent in the area as long as I'm paying Zillow enough money to populate. And then I'll get linked up with that person requesting a tour, even though I have nothing to do with that property. And most people that are using Zillow to request tours have no idea that that's what's going on. So what Zillow also does is they pull listings that are listed on the MLS by real estate agents into their collection of properties. So it's basically a syndication website. There are a number of them out there. Redfin is another. But Zillow basically pulls these listings that are listed on the MLS, but they also give people the ability to market homes individually without using an agent as a for sale by owner on Zillow. So Zillow allows people to post properties only on their website, and Zillow isn't like cross-promoting these to other websites. They're keeping it internal. People are posting their for sale by owners only on Zillow, and they're seeing what kind of activity they can get. Goes out to a significantly smaller audience, but Zillow does not cross-promote these listings. They're not going to other brokerages. For sale by owner is not going to populate at in a Compass collection that I set up for my buyers, or a Caldwell Banker or Keller Williams. So Zillow keeps those for sale by owner properties internal to Zillow. But now that Compass has built in this private exclusive tool that allows their sellers a choice to how to market the property, Zillow is suddenly taking this stance that when somebody else has a private exclusive listing, that's not fair anymore. So this article says that in a move designed to create an even playing field, listings that are publicly promoted to consumers but not made widely available via the MLS will be barred from Zillow.com starting in May. So this basically says that if there are brokerages out there that are sort of pre-marketing their listings before actually posting them on the MLS, those will never be posted on Zillow.com. So this quote from their chief industry development officer told Real Estate News on April 10th, "Our belief is that if a listing is going to be marketed to a buyer or a subset of buyers, it really needs to be made available to all buyers," end quote, which runs in exact contradiction to the fact that they have been allowing people to post for sale by owner homes on their websites for years. So this is sort of fascinating to me. Zillow was saying, wait a second, it was fine if we were allowed to market properties without them being listed through other brokerages. But now that another brokerage has this tool and can do it, this is super unfair. And we are now looking out for the consumer because we don't want any unfairness in the market. This is so wild. So basically, Zillow is basically this elementary school bully who's been hoarding the soccer ball for all of recess. And then some other person comes in and brings a better soccer ball. And Zillow all of a sudden is saying, wait a second here. We either share soccer balls on this playground or nobody plays soccer. So it's childish, hypocritical behavior. And I think at the end of the day, people are going to understand that working with a Compass agent, that agent's going to do whatever they can to get their client to their goals, whatever their goals are. So if their goals are to pre-market the listing and then launch it on the MLS, they're going to do that. But it depends on what the seller wants as far as positioning goes, because overpricing a home and letting it sit on the market for a year isn't exactly good for the consumer either, which is why private exclusive can be such a powerful tool for testing that positioning. But this could bite Zillow in the ass. The one reason people use them, I feel like, is they can casually look at MLS listings without engaging a real estate agent. The most of the people that are using Zillow are not serious about their home search, but plenty of people are still using it. And the second those listings go away on Zillow.com and people realize, oh, Zillow doesn't have all the listings anymore, they might be more likely to go to Compass, especially those buyers who want to see not just the listings that are listed on the MLS, but also that are listed exclusively through Compass. So they're not only getting less listings in front of them by using Zillow, they're getting more listings than they would have had on Zillow by using Compass. So I don't know if it's to their benefit to do something like this and squash all potential marketing on Zillow for properties that have executed some pre-marketing strategy before going on the MLS. But we'll see. I'd love to know your thoughts below. Hopefully that gave you a pretty good overview. Obviously, I feel a little bit biased because I am a Compass agent, but I understand that this can easily be made to look like Compass just wants to double end deals. And no doubt about it, that will be a byproduct of private exclusive. It always has been since they've had this tool. Just because Zillow is pissed that their lollipop got taken away now doesn't change the fact that people are always going to want to market their homes privately. And, buyers definitely find value in having access to listings that aren't being put out there in front of other buyers, especially in a low inventory market like we have here in Boston and like many other markets have through the United States. So, anyway, let me know if you have any thoughts, feedback, concerns. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hopefully it was very clear, but we'll see what happens with how all of this shakes out, and I'll probably do another update at some point. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe below, click follow, whatever those buttons are down there. And thanks again for watching. Take care, guys.